Hi everyone, I'm Michael from Michael John Hulse Artistry, and today I'm going to be talking about my novel, A Chronicle of Crowns. I'm sorry about there being no video last week. The way I shoot these is I tether my camera to my Mac and save the videos directly onto my Mac. But for some reason, last week when I unplugged my camera, a little message came up that said some of the files may not have been saved to the computer. And by some of the files, they meant all of the files. But today I wanted to talk about my book, talk about the plot and some of the characters, and some of the changes that I'm making to the book. And you probably already noticed the first change is in the title. Originally it was called The Children of Gods and Monsters, but I've changed the title now to A Chronicle of Crowns, and I'll talk about the changes later on in the video. So a lot of people always ask me what my book is about, and that's kind of a hard question to answer. It revolves around numerous point of view characters. I think in book 1 and 2 there are 10 complete characters, and the story sort of revolves around their life and shared events that impact each of the different characters differently in their storyline. It is a fantasy novel set in a fantasy world that I created, and there are different races like elves and dwarves and faun and all those kind of things, but the first 2 books really revolve around these characters that are human in different cultures that are based off of real world cultures. The way I describe it is sort of like The Lord of the Rings meets Game of Thrones. The way that I've set up the series is that I'll write a prelude, which is about a 20 to 30 page little book that will precede the big books. And you can find the preludes on Amazon.com. They will be free starting March 1st, but I plan on including the preludes in the physical copy of the books. And right now you can find the books on Amazon.com. I'll post a link below, but there are changes that are going to happen to them, and anybody who does buy them now will get those changes. I'm not going to go too deep into the characterization because I want to do separate videos for each of my characters, but I'll give just a general overview of who they are and how they fit into the storyline. The first character that we meet is Howl Pendingale, whose point of view the prelude and the prologue for book 1 are written in. Howl is sort of like my Gandalf or Dumbledore or Aslan or Alanon of the whole series. He's the stereotypical wizard. He's the wise guy who's sort of the link between the past and the present. And for the most part, his storyline centers around the Children of the Dark, which is a cult bent on resurrecting an ancient evil. But essentially this cult, the Children of the Dark, they have an influence in every single kingdom in the story. And almost every single point of view character has a character in their storyline who is a member of this cult. And in some of the storylines it's more obvious than in others, but they're sort of working to destabilize the whole world so that'll make it easier for their master to rise up and take over. And Howl is really the only character for a long time who knows about this cult and is trying to stop the sequence of events that the cult is trying to start. The second 2 characters that you're introduced to are Benjamin and Dormel Ashwood, and they're the Lord and Lady of Misthaven, which is the northernmost city in the Kingdom of Aurelia, which is a medieval kingdom. The Ashwoods are sort of like my Starks. They're characters that you attach to really early on, and Benjamin sort of takes over my role as the hero, I guess, of the story. He's a lot more brash. He doesn't really think through his consequences. He just kind of acts out of passion, and Dormel is kind of his grounding force. And together their story takes them to the capital, where they're reunited with their friend the king, and the story sort of follows the events that happen there. The next major character that you meet is Arthena Condravian, and she is a princess in the Half Moon Empire, which is a culture that was sort of based around ancient Egypt. They're the oldest human culture on the earth, but they have progressed very slowly. The culture is based around a multi-level tier system of different castes that rise all the way up from the emperor down to numerous different slave classes. But over the last few centuries, the empire has kind of fallen into disrepair. The population has grown too big for the land to support, and Arthena is kind of struggling to rebuild a crumbling empire and also secure her birthright to the throne from her father's other wives and their children. The next character is named Uvenna, and she's a half-human, half-Hekidra, which is a race of human-like, white-skinned shamans that are very in touch with nature and are at war with Aurelia. The Whiteskins, or the Hekidra, are very nomadic, they're very primitive, but they're very powerful. Yuvena starts the story off as a whore in a military outpost on the border of Aurelia and this plains called the White Sea where the Hekedra live. And her story kind of takes a turn. She kind of discovers this innate magical ability within her that comes from her Hekedran past, discovers who she is and learns about herself and her ancestry. The next character we have is Dante Singh, and he is a Candilan assassin. Most of his story takes place in the Half Moon Empire, but he's from this place called Candila, which is almost like a Greek-inspired island kingdom. And Dante deals with a lot of problems. He's kind of disillusioned and thinks he's the god of death, and he has really bad nightmares and deals with self-harm issues and stuff like that. But despite all of his issues, he's an amazing assassin, and he's highly sought out by members of the Half Moon Empire. His story is kind of separate from the others. He helps further Arthena's plot and gives a different point of view about the sort of degradation of the Half Moon Empire. Then we have a character called Venetia Finlandir, and she is a princess of a country called Daleheim. And Daleheim was really based off of sort of Norse Viking culture. Her story doesn't really take place in Daleheim yet. She comes to Aurelia, to Tiergarten, to the capital, to kind of speak with the king because she finds herself pregnant with his bastard child. And she wants the king to marry her and legitimize their son. The next character that we have is one of my favorite, and his name is Paris, the Lightbringer. And he is a healer in the religious order of the 9-in-1, which is the main religious body of the Kingdom of Aurelia. Paris is an interesting character because he has this demon inside of him that talks to him and he can only hear. And it was really fun writing that sort of concept of having this inner sarcastic and rude demon that just kind of chats away at Paris the whole time. And Paris's whole storyline for the first few books is centered around the warmongering of his lord, Joxer Hammond, who saw his entire family massacred in a civil war that happened in his youth. And now he's out to seek revenge against the crown and kind of take back his ancestral lands. Next we have Jameson Syrian, who is the trade prince of the Cerulean Cartel, which is an alliance of pirate lords in the Tropic K. Jameson was originally from Aurelia. He was really close with Benjamin Ashwood and the king, but he was exiled and came to the Tropic K and sort of built a life for himself there. But he never really accepted the Tropic K as his home, and he's just kind of a drunk old surly pirate who's dealing with the chaos of the Tropic K and all of these different powers that are in control there. And our last character is Naveen Tagore, and he's a prince in the city-state of Kahin. And Kahin is sort of based around Middle Eastern, Arabian, think Agrabah. It's a giant city-state and it's incredibly wealthy, and it's probably the most powerful city-state in the Azure Sea. We only see Naveen towards the end of the book, and through his eyes we see the sacking of Kahin by the Half Moon Empire. Naveen also has this sort of weird quirk about him. He has these dreams where he's birds and he's in the bird's body and looking through their eyes. And he calls them nightmares, but they're actually something a lot more interesting than that. And that's a little overview of my characters for Book 1 and Book 2. I'm going to go into further detail in other videos. I'm also going to paint portraits of the characters just so you can get a feel of how I envision them. Okay, so now for the changes. The first big change that I made was in the title. The original title was The Children of Gods and Monsters, and to be completely honest, I was never very fond of the title. I was kind of embarrassed to say it when people would ask me what the title of my book was. My dad, who's editing it, we kind of looked at the title and we didn't think that it fit, and we wanted to change it. And he thought it should be something to do with crowns because I had all these different kingdoms. And one day a Chronicle of Crowns just popped into my head and I really liked it. And I think it fits better with the overall generic theme that I wanted, because it was really hard to make a title that kind of overarched all of these different characters and events and what was going on with them. So I kind of wanted something more generic sounding, just to kind of loop everything together. The second change we made is that we split the book, which was about 700 pages published. We split it in half. But the most exciting change for me that we made are the covers of the books. I redesigned the cover of Book 1 and the Prelude, and created new covers for Book 2 and the Prelude for Book 2 that I still have to write. And I think they turned out really awesome. The aesthetic of them is really great, and they look like something that I would pick up in the store and want to read. And here they are! This is the cover for Prelude 1. This is the cover for the first book. This is the cover for Prelude 2. And this is the cover for the second book. So I'm really excited about these changes. I'm waiting until my dad finishes editing it, and then I'll upload the new copy and the new pictures to Amazon. So that's about it for this week. As always, you can follow me on my social media links. I'll post them below. Remember that the first prelude for A Chronicle of Crowns comes out for free on March 1st. And head over to Amazon and get a copy of, well, right now, The Children of Gods and Monsters, but soon to be A Chronicle of Crowns. And don't worry, because any updates I make to that file, you'll automatically get. And head over to lulu.com to get your own copy of Transcendence, which was my photography and poetry book. And yeah, that's it. See y'all next week. Legitimize, is that even a word? Legitimize their son.